My name is Claire Reynolds, and for a long time, I believed that love meant compromise, patience, and staying quiet when things became uncomfortable. I believed that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, and smoothed over enough rough edges, my marriage would eventually feel balanced. I was wrong. Before I begin, if you enjoy cinematic, emotional storytelling about real relationships, power, and the moments that change a life forever, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as you listen, ask yourself this question: how many times have you paid a price just to keep the peace? The night my husband threw wine in my face at a luxury restaurant was not the first time he crossed a line, but it was the first time I finally saw the line clearly. My husband's name is Andrew. From the outside, our life looked polished. We lived in a modern apartment downtown, attended charity events, dined at expensive restaurants, and smiled for photos like a couple who had it all figured out. Andrew loved appearances. He loved being seen as successful, generous, and in control. What most people did not know was that much of that lifestyle was quietly funded by me. I worked in corporate finance. I earned well. I was careful with money. Andrew, on the other hand, floated from one ambitious idea to another, always chasing the next big thing, always convinced he was on the verge of something impressive. Early in our marriage, I told myself that supporting him was temporary, that partnerships were about balance over time. When he forgot his wallet at dinner, I paid. When his business idea stalled, I covered rent. When he wanted to impress clients, I transferred money without asking too many questions. Each time, he thanked me. Each time, I told myself this was what love looked like. The night of the incident, Andrew insisted on celebrating a successful meeting at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. The kind of place where reservations are hard to get and menus do not list prices. The lighting was low, the tablecloths were white, and the wine list was thicker than most novels. Andrew ordered confidently, barely glancing at me. He chose a bottle of red wine that made the waiter pause, just slightly before nodding. He ordered appetizers we did not finish and entrees that arrived arranged like artwork. He talked loudly, laughing, telling stories about his brilliance, making sure nearby tables could hear. I sat there, smiling politely, but something in me tightened with every order. When the wine arrived, Andrew raised his glass and toasted to himself. I sipped slowly, already calculating the bill in my head. When dessert menus arrived, I gently placed my hand on his arm and said quietly, "Andrew, maybe we should skip dessert tonight." He looked at me like I had spoken a foreign language. "Why?" he asked, irritation flashing behind his smile. "This is a celebration." I lowered my voice. "This place is expensive, and we did not plan for this." He laughed and waved his hand dismissively. "Relax. You always worry too much." The bill arrived folded in heavy black leather. Andrew opened it, glanced once, and then slid it across the table toward me without a word. My stomach dropped. I looked at the number, higher than I expected, higher than it had any right to be. I looked back at him and said calmly, "Andrew, I am not paying this." His smile froze. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I mean," I said, keeping my voice steady, "you ordered all of this. You should pay." The air between us shifted instantly. His eyes darkened. "Do not do this here," he hissed. "I am not doing anything," I replied. "I am just saying no." That word, no, seemed to ignite something in him. He glanced around, aware of the people nearby, the image he was projecting. His face flushed with anger and humiliation. "You are embarrassing me," he said through clenched teeth. I shook my head. "I am setting a boundary." The next moment happened so fast it felt unreal. Andrew picked up his glass of red wine and flung it straight into my face. The liquid was cold and sticky, running down my cheeks, soaking my hair, staining my dress. The room went silent. I could hear the soft clink of cutlery from another table, the distant hum of conversation that had not yet caught up to what just happened. I sat there, stunned, wine dripping from my chin, my hands resting in my lap. Andrew stood abruptly. "You should have known better," he snapped. Every eye in the restaurant was on us. Some people looked away in discomfort. Others stared openly. No one said a word. I reached for my napkin and wiped my face slowly. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not throw anything back. I stood up, placed the napkin neatly on the table, and said quietly, "We are done here."
Andrew scoffed.
"Do not be dramatic," he said.
"You made me do this."
That sentence echoed in my head as I walked out of the restaurant alone, my dress ruined, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. Outside, the night air felt sharp against my skin. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing, realizing something with absolute clarity. This was not about a bill. This was about control. And for the first time in years, I did not feel confused. I felt awake. I did not go home right away after leaving the restaurant. I stood on the sidewalk for several minutes, the city moving around me as if nothing had happened, cars passing, couples laughing, waiters stepping outside to smoke, all of it painfully normal while my entire sense of reality shifted. The smell of wine clung to my hair and clothes, sweet and sour at the same time, a reminder that humiliation does not always come with bruises you can point to. I called a rideshare instead of walking, because my hands were shaking too badly to trust myself behind the wheel. As I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, my phone buzzed with a message from Andrew. "You overreacted.
We will talk when you calm down." I read it once and then locked my screen.
For the first time in our marriage, I did not feel the urge to explain myself. When I got home, the apartment felt unfamiliar, like a hotel room I had stayed in too many times without ever unpacking. I went straight to the bathroom, washed the wine from my hair, scrubbed my skin until it stung, and stood under the shower longer than necessary, letting the water ground me.
As I dried off, I caught my reflection in the mirror.
My eyes looked different. Clearer. Harder.
Not angry, not broken, just awake.
Andrew came home an hour later. I heard his keys, his footsteps, the way he moved through the space like he owned it. "Claire," he called out, irritation already in his voice.
"You made a scene tonight."
I stepped into the living room, wrapped in a robe, my ruined dress folded neatly over a chair. "You threw wine in my face," I said calmly. He scoffed. "You pushed me. You know how important appearances are to me." There it was. Not an apology. Not even regret.
Just justification.
He walked past me, poured himself a drink, and continued talking as if we were debating a restaurant choice instead of an act of public humiliation. "You embarrassed me in front of people who matter," he said. I had no choice. I felt something settle in my chest, heavy but steady. "You always have a choice," I replied. "You chose to humiliate me because I said no." He turned toward me then, eyes sharp. "You forget who pays for this life," he snapped.
I almost laughed.
"I do not forget," I said.
"I remember every transfer, every bill, every time I covered for you."
His expression flickered, just for a second. Enough. That night, he slept on the couch. Or rather, he passed out there, drink in hand, television glowing in the dark. I lay awake in the bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying moments I had ignored for years. The way he always ordered without looking at prices. The way he assumed I would handle things. The way he became cold whenever I hesitated. I realized that what happened at the restaurant was not an exception. It was the most honest moment of our marriage. The next morning, Andrew acted as if nothing had happened. He drank coffee, scrolled through his phone, and said, "We should move past last night." I watched him carefully. "We will," I said. "But not the way you think." After he left, I did something I should have done years earlier. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I logged into our shared accounts, my personal accounts, every financial platform I had access to. What I found made my stomach twist. Credit cards I did not recognize. Cash advances I never approved. Payments going to accounts I did not know. Andrew was not just careless. He was drowning. And he had been using my stability as a life raft. I spent the entire day reviewing statements, pulling records, documenting everything. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. That evening, I called a lawyer. I did not cry during the consultation. I did not dramatize. I simply told the truth. The lawyer listened quietly and then said something that echoed in my head for days. "What you described is financial abuse," she said. Hearing the words out loud was like a door opening. Abuse.
Not miscommunication.
Not stress.
Abuse.
When Andrew came home, I was waiting. I asked him to sit down. He looked annoyed, but he did. I placed the printed statements on the table between us. "Explain these," I said. He glanced at them, then back at me, irritation quickly turning to anger. "You went through my things?" "Our things," I corrected. "Our money." He leaned back in his chair, defensive. "I was handling it," he said.
You worry too much.
I pointed to a line on the page. "This is not handling it. This is hiding it." His jaw tightened. "You would not understand the pressure I am under," he said. "You live such a safe little life." Safe. The word hit differently now. "My life is safe because I make it that way," I replied. "Because I plan. Because I do not gamble with things that affect other people." He stood up abruptly.
So what, you think you are better than me?
"No," I said. "I think I am done being smaller so you can feel bigger." He stared at me, truly stared, as if seeing me for the first time. "You would leave me over money?" he asked incredulously. "I would leave you over disrespect," I answered.
The money just exposed it.
The argument that followed was long and exhausting.
He minimized.
He blamed. He accused me of betrayal for involving a lawyer, for looking at accounts, for daring to protect myself. I did not raise my voice. I did not insult him. I simply repeated the same truth over and over. This is not acceptable. Eventually, he ran out of words. He grabbed his jacket and left, slamming the door behind him. I did not chase him. I sat down at the table, surrounded by papers, and felt something unfamiliar wash over me. Relief. The following days were quiet. Andrew sent messages, alternating between apologies and accusations. I did not engage. I followed through.
I separated finances.
I froze accounts. I changed passwords. I moved my money into places he could not touch. Each step felt terrifying and empowering at the same time. Friends started calling, having heard fragments of the story. Some were supportive. Others asked what I did to make him so angry. I learned quickly who saw me as a person and who saw me as an accessory. One afternoon, Andrew showed up unannounced. He looked tired, shaken, less polished. "You are really doing this," he said. "You are destroying us." I met his gaze. "No," I said.
I am saving myself.
He laughed bitterly.
Over one stupid dinner. I shook my head.
Over years of believing I had to pay to be respected. He looked at me then, truly afraid. Not of losing me, but of losing what I represented. Stability. Resources. Control. As he walked away that day, I knew the marriage I thought I was protecting had already been gone for a long time. What remained was a choice. And for the first time, I was choosing myself. Andrew did not disappear quietly. Men like him rarely do. For a while, he tried charm. Long messages late at night about memories, promises, how stress had made him someone he was not. Then he tried anger. He accused me of exaggerating, of ruining his reputation, of abandoning him when he needed support. I read every message once and then put my phone face down, refusing to let his words crawl back inside my head. The divorce process was not dramatic, but it was revealing. Andrew's confidence evaporated the moment he had to explain his finances to someone who did not care about his image. The debts he dismissed as temporary looked very real on paper. The lifestyle he claimed to manage collapsed without my income quietly propping it up. Friends who once praised him stopped returning his calls. Invitations dried up. The same people who laughed at his jokes at that luxury restaurant suddenly had no time. One afternoon, as I was leaving the lawyer's office, I saw Andrew sitting in his car across the street. He looked smaller somehow, slumped, staring straight ahead. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old instinct to comfort him. Then I remembered the wine running down my face, the silence of that restaurant, the way he told me I made him do it. I kept walking. The court proceedings were brief. There were no explosive confrontations, no screaming matches. Just facts. Numbers. Patterns. The judge did not need drama to see what had happened. When it was over, Andrew stood on one side of the room and I stood on the other, and for the first time since our wedding day, we were exactly where we belonged. Separate. Walking out of the building, I expected to feel devastated. Instead, I felt light. Not because I was free of him, but because I was free of the lie I had been living, the lie that love requires endurance without dignity. I moved to a smaller place closer to my office, with big windows and a kitchen that felt like mine. I sold the expensive furniture we chose together and kept the things that actually mattered. Friends I had neglected came back into my life. Some admitted they had worried about me for years but did not know how to say it. Others faded away, uncomfortable with a woman who no longer apologized for taking up space. One evening, months later, I went out to dinner with a close friend at a simple neighborhood restaurant. No white tablecloths. No menus without prices. When the check arrived, we laughed and split it without tension or expectation.
As I lifted my glass, I caught my reflection in the window.
I looked calm, grounded, whole. In that moment, I understood something deeply. The worst thing Andrew ever did was not throwing wine in my face. It was teaching me to believe that my worth was tied to what I paid for, what I covered, what I tolerated. And the most powerful thing I ever did was refuse to pay that bill again. If you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you have ever been made to feel small, ashamed, or indebted for simply saying no, know this. Love does not humiliate. Partnership does not require silence. And self-respect is not something you earn by enduring pain. It is something you claim the moment you decide you are done paying for someone else's ego. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share where you are listening from and whether you have ever had to choose yourself after being disrespected.
Your voice matters, and you are not alone.